Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final segment of our Mobile Mapping Mondays series, a fast new way to create striking MMS deliverables. I'm Christine Grail with Leica Geosystems, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. Our presenters today are Jason Ellis and Bradley Adams. Jason has nearly 20 years of surveying experience, including more than 15 years working with laser scanning. A creative thinker and technology advocate, Jason has spent much of his career in leadership roles, such as technology director for the Klingers Group and business development manager for TrueScan 3D. He currently serves as mobile mapping service and support specialist for Leica Geosystems, a Hexagon company, where he focuses on helping companies successfully implement and develop mobile mapping services. Brad is a sales manager for Leica Geosystems and has more than 30 years of experience in transportation engineering, mapping, and information technology. He has a proven track record of drawing on his technical expertise and knowledge of engineering markets to deliver customized geospatial solutions to his clients. Over the past few decades, Brad has promoted the advancement of technology-based solutions, starting with engineering, drafting, and design systems to terrestrial laser scanning, digital aerial imagery, aerial LiDAR, automated feature extraction, and mobile mapping systems. Also on the line with us today is Josh Rayburn, Mobile Mapping and UAV Manager for Leica Geosystems, who will be answering your questions behind the scenes in today's session. We encourage you to ask questions during the webinar. You can simply type your questions into the questions box, which you should see on your screen. If we are unable to answer all the questions in our live session, someone will reach out to you after the webinar by email. Before we get to our main presentation today, we do have a couple of quick polls we'd like to share with you just to get a better idea of who is in the audience. The first quick poll is, what type of deliverables do you need to produce most often? Maybe you're working with clients who need fully featured deliverables with just about everything included, maybe primarily DTM models or point clouds and imagery, or maybe there's something else. And if there is something that you don't see listed here, please go ahead and enter that in your questions box so we can get a good idea of what your needs are. It looks like a lot of folks in the audience with us today do need those fully featured deliverables. So that is good to know. I am going to close this out and share the results. So almost half need those fully featured deliverables. We've got one more quick poll here, and this one is regarding challenges. What is your biggest challenge in extracting information from point clouds? Maybe you're working with very large projects or very complex projects. Maybe it's really the analysis side that's a struggle. And again, maybe there's something that you don't see listed here. Go ahead and take a moment to answer that poll question, and we'll share the results in just a minute. Looks like it's pretty evenly split between complexity and analysis. And of course, there's some overlap between those two. I'll go ahead and share those results. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Jason.
Thanks, Christine. And thanks everybody for being here today. Really appreciate all the turnout and support through this webinar series. I'm really excited to share the content for today's session. But first, I want to take a moment to talk about what we've reviewed so far. So in the first session, we reviewed the core concepts of mobile mapping, the tremendous value that mission planning brings to any field exercise, and of course, field safety. In session 2, we reviewed an actual field collection from the Pegasus 2 Ultimate from start to finish. And we looked at how simple it is to post-process the data for review in the field or in the office. And in our last session, we discussed how to maximize relative and global accuracies, document our accuracies in survey reports, and prepare the data for downstream production handoff. Today, I want to explore the production side of mobile mapping and share with you the direction Leica is heading with our mobile mapping solutions. But first, before we move on, I'd like to share with you what we're seeing in the mobile mapping industry to help provide some context on our direction forward. And what we're seeing is a growing demand for mobile technology on roadway, rail, and other infrastructure projects. As this technology has matured and been refined, the demand is growing dramatically year over year. As organizations engage and innovate with mobile mapping platforms, we're seeing an increase in the sheer volume of data being collected, with companies growing tens of hundreds of miles of data into tens of thousands of miles of data. The autonomous vehicle segment is in need of a massive amount of data, to the tune of hundreds of thousands to millions of miles. This all needs to be collected and converted into actionable data sets to support the advancement of safe driverless vehicles. And as the utilization of mobile mapping becomes more mainstream, the size of projects are growing as organizations plan and execute their projects. The bottom line is there's a lot of data being collected, a lot of infrastructure projects in the pipeline, and there's a demand to quickly convert it into usable deliverables. So as we've reviewed all the different mobile mapping considerations during this webinar series, we've seen how mobile mapping systems can be very effective from planning to processing and adjustment, and even documenting adjustment accuracies through reporting. But given the sheer volume of data sets being collected and the demand for faster and streamlined workflows to create usable features in production, we at Leica are focusing on bringing tool sets to mobile mapping that will allow for the rapid and intuitive production of quality deliverables. Enter Road Factory. So Road Factory is a new module for Pegasus Manager that automates the extraction and calculation of critical road elements acquired with the Pegasus system. It increases efficiency and drastically reduces processing times for generating line work for roadway-related features. Road Factory is empowered by utilizing artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to bring these new and exciting feature extraction tools to the production environment. So jumping in, and just for starters, we've added road assessment tools to Road Factory. The road assessment tools inherits the legacy of Leica Map Factory software, which was originally available only as an extension for ArcGIS. This tool set will analyze roadway crack indexing, rut depth, and ortho images from LiDAR and imagery. And they're a great complementary tool set used with our dual pavement camera kit for the Pegasus 2 Ultimate. These tools now being included within Road Factory means users are no longer required to maintain an installation of ArcMap to utilize these functions. This further consolidates and simplifies our production workflow, allowing users to remain in Pegasus Manager for all of their processing and analysis needs. So let's talk about the new tools within Road Factory. With this release of Road Factory, we are introducing several exciting functions that will elevate Pegasus Manager from a suite focused solely on processing and analysis to production for roadway applications. This family of calculations and batch extraction functions allows users to leverage the intelligence of Pegasus technologies to easily generate roadway features, streamlining several production and reporting workflows. All of these tools are made possible by unique LiDAR classifications within Pegasus Manager. So let's take a look at these exciting new features and how they can position users for next level workflows. First, we're very proud to bring LiDAR point cloud classification to Pegasus Manager. Our classification is fully developed by Leica and brings unique values to allow Pegasus Manager to expand its capabilities and drive automatic feature extraction routines. Classification does run as a batch process in the automatic processing module of Pegasus Manager. And classification can be applied to the point cloud, and it does port downstream and export to Cyclone, LAS, E57, etc. All classification segments can be individually reviewed as layers in Pegasus Manager. So let's take a look at a video that demonstrates this. So in Pegasus Manager Automatic Processing module, classification is included with the point cloud filtering and classification batch function. The parameters allow the user to select the appropriate road roughness profile for calculating the classification. Once the classification is completed, we can open any module of Pegasus Manager that allows for the visualization of the LiDAR, and we can see that the LiDAR is visible with its respective classification segments applied to the point cloud. So this is not only a great visualization tool to be used in our analysis of the point cloud, but it's also a springboard for the feature extraction tools that we're excited to share with you today. So lots of users have asked us how they can quickly generate DTM, a DTM from the LiDAR data for various types of analysis, such as slope analysis, cut fill, or curb-to-curb contouring. This new tool addresses that need. Our DTM tool allows users to very quickly delineate a digital terrain model from the observed LiDAR data and export it directly to CAD as a shapefile, a DXF, or a DWG. An export can be done as contours only, DTM only, or both. Users have full control over the grid spacing and the contour intervals, and break lines can be added to provide more definition to the surface. Here's an example of what this tool looks like in action. So first we're going to set sampling parameters with the track and the frame range. And then we get an opportunity to specify the grid distance and our contour interval. And we can add additional break line information if we want as well. Let it process. The result is a full DTM and contours of the classified road surface that are ready for downstream production applications. These results are viewable in the map, video, and LiDAR windows within Pegasus Manager. As I said, all data can be exported to shapefile, DXF, or DWG, and this really opens up a whole new dimension to analyzing mobile mapping data and positions users to be more efficient and have far more flexibility in their production workflows. So the lane lines tool is a great new feature that delineates painted center lines, lane separation lines, and edge lines. The line work can be shown as either dashed or continuous and will be denoted as either yellow or white in an attribute table. Here's an example of that tool set. So here we have a highway collection and we're setting the track and frame range for the calculation. When we open the lane lines tool set, we can see a preview of the point cloud and we get an opportunity to adjust the intensity thresholds from which the tool will operate. This threshold is adjustable to help the lanes stand out depending on their intensity values. We also offer visual tooltips that help the user understand the input that they are setting. Lane lines can also be shown as either continuous or dashed, depending on how they need to be represented for the mapping that's going to be done. So after processing, jump forward here just a smidge, you can see that the line work overlays nicely with the video and furthermore with the LiDAR itself. Curbs can be generated with the new curbing tool. So the top and bottom of the curb and the curb middle line can also be delineated. These polylines are ready to be exported to CAD for production, or they could be included as break lines using the DTM tool that we looked at earlier. And here's an example of how that works. Once again, we set the track and the frame range, and we initiate the tool and review the input settings. More tool tips help with dialing these settings in. So after processing, once everything's been calculated, the results are viewable once again in the video window. And you can see that there's some breaks in the curbs where drive aprons or other obstructions or deformations in the curbing would occur. And we can also see this line work overlaid with the LiDAR as well. The new barriers tool will generate the top of a Jersey barrier or the top of a guardrail. Minimum vertical violations can be flagged automatically to be included in a layer attribute report. And here's an example of how that tool looks in action. As before, we start by setting the track and frame range. And then we're going to review our settings. We can look at these tool tips as a reference to help us get the right settings dialed in. And then once it's finished calculating and we review the results, we can see that both the Jersey barrier and the guardrails were detected in the stretch of highway. So maybe you can envision being able to take this line work directly into Civil 3D or something and apply a guardrail line type directly to this. The travel lane tool will delineate the edge of the pavement and the shoulder limits. So this tool is useful in generating and displaying the area of the road shoulder, as well as the pavement limits and the edge of traveled way. This tool also works to groom the data for use in OpenDRIVE, which we're going to discuss in more detail soon. So just like before, we set the track and the frame range, open the tool, and review the settings and the tool tips. So after processing, we can see that we've determined the edge of pavement and the edge of the traveled way. We can also review a polygonal area of the shoulder if we choose to do so. Our new clearance tool can be used to determine encroachments above the road surface. Users have full control over the horizontal and vertical offset of the detection along the trajectory. Additional classification attributes such as building or vegetation can be included in the detections so that when you generate a report, you can see what type of an encroachment it is. The pedestrian crossing tool will locate and outline block striping within the LiDAR. Crossings can be represented as single blocks, or they can be combined to show as a singular outline, like in this image. Optionally, located striping can be added as a class to the LiDAR classification. So when we detect these pedestrian crossings, we have an opportunity to apply a pedestrian crossing classification to the LiDAR point cloud itself. The new wires tool will delineate overhead wires that are visible in the point cloud. So in addition to automatically generating this line work, the attributes for the new line work can also include vegetation encroachments to be included in a layer report. The poles tool will detect vertical poles adjacent to the roadway, and it can detect poles by minimum or maximum height to filter out unwanted results. Some of the attributes included on this data would be height, base diameter, top diameter, vertical slope, or its offset to the roadway. So all of these features generated in Road Factory are editable by using the new feature editing tools that are accessible in the map, the video, and the LiDAR editing windows in Pegasus Manager. So let's take a quick look at how this tool set helps finalize automatically generated line work. Simple right clicks on the mouse present the tool set in the map, video, or LiDAR windows, and allow the user to manipulate line work with many common CAD types of tools, such as delete or move features, merge features, and full vertice manipulation along polylines. Other tools include feature offset and copy feature attributes. And you can even change the Z values for the vertices as well. This tool set makes it easy to edit any of the features that you've extracted using the Road Factory tool set. So we're very excited to bring these road extraction tool sets to market and look forward to working with everyone to help grow their capabilities and expand the incredible value that Pegasus Solutions and all that they bring to the mobile reality capture realm. So taking this further, I would like to introduce you to Brad Adams. Brad's been leading our investment in the autonomous vehicle market as part of the Hexagon Smart Autonomous Mobility Initiative. Brad's going to share how this functionality creates base data for simulations in OpenDRIVE, which is facilitated by the Road Factory toolset. So without further delay, take it away, Brad.
Thank you, Jason. Very exciting features and functionality that you have shown here. I suspect that most on this call or on this webinar are not familiar with OpenDRIVE. If you'll go to the next slide, Jason, please. OpenDRIVE is a base input format for simulation in the autonomous vehicle industry. And we all, while we may not know about OpenDRIVE, we certainly know the investment and the opportunities in the autonomous vehicle sector. And for success in the autonomous vehicle side requires millions and billions of miles of simulations. And these miles must be created from thousands of miles of geospecific road data that has to be completed, exported, and processed in an OpenDRIVE and an OpenCRG format. And these scenarios, to be valuable, require a full range of conditions, different roadways, different roadway conditions, different signing, striping, barriers, topographic and traffic conditions, not only in specific areas, but also in a full complement of international areas. So every state, every country needs to have some level of geospecific road data collected and processed. Next, please. What we are able to generate from all of the outstanding features that Jason has showed us previously is now to build an OpenCRG and an OpenDRIVE export directly from Road Factory that then is input into simulations across the board. These simulations are incredibly important for all vehicle manufacturers and all autonomous vehicle professionals, because what we will be able to produce from the base precision and accuracy of the Pegasus system through the tremendous abilities to create a digital terrain model and the classification of a point cloud, the extraction of the edges of pavement, the building of the barriers, will allow us to move directly from a digital simulation to prototype testing and be able to replicate with a digital twin the exact roadway that has been scanned on the ground and now can be simulated in the new environment. Next, please. This shows an example of all of the individual features and functions that are required to build an accurate OpenDRIVE framework. You've got to have all of your exacting lane lines and edges of pavement. You've got to have the surface of the roadway. You've got to understand the cross sections, the profiles. You've got to understand super elevation. All of that type of information is incredibly important in all simulation details. With the collection and creation of the digital twin, we now have the opportunity to create not only the OpenDRIVE, which allows us to manipulate vehicles through the environment, but also the OpenCRG, which gives base level pavement information and allows the interaction of the mechanical components inside of an Adams model or another type of simulation model, where we can give the details to be able to move through the pavement into the tire and into the mechanical systems of the vehicle themselves. And we build the comprehensive infrastructure with all of the geo-specific road data necessary. And this next slide, we're going to show an actual simulation that was created from a Pegasus environment. It was collected, processed, extracted, and then pulled into a virtual test drive environment, which now shows the interaction of the vehicle along an actual roadway in Detroit and how that simulation can be created. So now we've gone from a process that would take days, weeks, and months to moving into a process that now takes hours, minutes, and days. The collection of roadways with the Pegasus system, we know, is very quick. We can now process, extract, and then export into OpenDRIVE and OpenCRG formats and deliver the type of quality that you see in this simulation. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jason and Christy, and I think we'll open it up for some questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brad and Jason. That was very interesting. Brad, for someone who's not familiar with OpenDRIVE and simulation, could you explain a little bit more about how it would be useful for a survey company? I mean, certainly we can see the potential for autonomous vehicles, but what about for an average survey firm?
Christy, I think that's an excellent question, and I believe that it really opens the opportunities for a survey firm that has a long experience in collecting data with mobile mapping. These sets of tools now give them an open path to an entirely new segment of companies that they've never been able to deal with before. They have a new product that they can deliver that's in incredible demand, but they're also able to use the existing data that they have and mine it for a new type of customer. So we now move from being able to create and deliver site surveys or roadway surveys for traditional clients, and we can deliver that same type of information set in an OpenDRIVE, OpenCRG format for a entirely new clientele that they haven't had access to in the past, but now they have something that group really needs.
Excellent, thank you. Jason, this question is for you. Can the classification and road factory features that you showed also be used for Pegasus backpack data, or is this limited to the Pegasus 2 and Pegasus 2 Ultimate?
That's a really good question. I believe it's currently limited to the Pegasus 2 for all of the roadway applications that we've seen. You know, the backpack's kind of a different animal when it comes to reality capture, and its application is going to be different than, you know, polling for lane lines and things like that. So yeah, that's my response.
Okay, excellent. I'm actually going to ask the two of you to share your webcam. I meant to do that when we started in the Q&A. I just want to remind the audience that you are welcome to enter any questions that you have in that Q&A box, and we will get to those just as soon as we can here. One question that we have here is for someone who already has the Pegasus solution, how can they get access to the new tools that you've showed today?
Yeah, so you would want to work directly with your regional representative And they can work with you to either get a temporary license or discuss a full implementation.
Okay, excellent. Is it the same for the OpenDRIVE as well, Brad?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, excellent. Now, someone had a great question about, and I want to make sure I ask this correctly here, but they wanted to know, how do they make sure their contour line is correct? And I think this is in reference to how Pegasus Manager creates the contours using the DTM surface. Could you explain a little bit about how they can make sure their contour line is correct because of what the software does?
Yeah, so the DTM modeling is similar to any other DTM modeling that you would employ through like Cyclone, for instance. And basically what we're doing is we're sampling the LiDAR data. So we're creating a sample grid of the LiDAR data that was collected in the field. Now, just like with any other data that you need to check as far as its positioning goes, you're going to want to have some sort of control network. So depending on, in the series, we've talked about a couple of different of accuracy tolerances, right? So when we first post-process the data, we're working with unadjusted data, and that unadjusted data typically has a global accuracy of 2 to 4 centimeters. So if you're okay with that for whatever deliverable you're creating, then you're probably good to go with the DTM that was generated. But if you're going to be working on a design grade type of job, like for a roadway or a bridge or something to that effect, you're going to have survey control out there. So you're going to want to make sure that, just like we talked about in the last session, you're going to constrain that data. You're going to constrain your data to the control. You're going to generate a report that shows the quality of your data versus your survey control. And based on that confidence, you're going to know that your data is where it should be. Now, if you want to have spot checks or verification points or something to that effect, you can always do that. This is a tried and true convention that people have been using for a long time. We're just applying it to mobile mapping.
Okay, excellent. This question might be related, but do the tools within Road Factory require classification of the data?
They do, yes. So the tools within Road Factory are dependent on the classification. Specifically, the classification provided and developed by Leica. So our tool set is dependent on that classification, which is going to run as a batch process in the automatic processing module of Pegasus Manager. So it's something that you can include in your everyday post-processing. So if we remember back to that second session, how we stacked everything up in the automatic processing module, starting with nav prep and all the extraction of the data, we can include that classification as another batch operation in post-processing, so that when we do look at the results, that first time that we go in to look at our LiDAR, we can actually visualize it in the classification as well.
Okay, excellent. Now, for someone who hasn't started mobile mapping yet, and I think we do have a certain segment of our audience who's not even involved in mobile mapping, they're still trying to figure out if this is the right direction for them. Are the tools that you've discussed included as part of the overall package with the Pegasus solution, or is there something that they need to do to specifically request this tool set?
Yeah, you would request this tool set, and that would be based on your needs, right? So if you have a need for this type of mapping, this type of feature extraction, classification, et cetera, this is something that you would specifically request. Say, hey, we envision ourselves providing these types of services for these types of customers, and this Road Factory package is going to be paramount to our success. So you would definitely want to have that conversation with your local rep.
And that really is a function of what our reps are set up to do, right? I mean, it's they're in the position of guiding that decision and helping to really acting as consultants to help you get involved in this business, to help you become successful in this business. So if you do have any questions, even after this webinar series, please do not hesitate to reach out to your rep, reach out to Jason, reach out to Brad, ask whatever questions you have to get you to a point where you feel comfortable and you know that this is the right direction for your business. These guys are experts in their field and they are more than happy to help you out. Will Pegasus Manager only work with Pegasus data, or will it also work with data from other mobile mapping solutions?
That's a good question. And, while Pegasus Manager does allow us to import LAS from other platforms, the road extraction and classification works exclusively with data from our mobile mapping platform.
Okay, great. I think that does bring us to the end of our session today. Again, I appreciate all the great questions from our audience. Both Jason's and Brad's contact information, as well as Josh, is on the screen. So please jot that down. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to these guys. Thank you again for all of you who have joined us in this series. This does bring us to the end of our series, but we will be having additional mobile mapping webinars in the near future. So please watch for that. And there is an exit survey as you close out of this webinar that should pop up on your screen. If you have topics that you would like to see us cover, please do enter that in our exit survey, and we will be happy to take a look at that. We do appreciate your time and hope that you found this webinar and our entire series to be a valuable experience. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.